I would like to share with you the story about Willie. Its title is Willie Was Different, and Willie is a wood thrush. This story is illustrated and written by Norman Rockwell. Norman Rockwell is really known for his wonderful illustrations more so than his stories, and this is in fact one of his few books. He drew illustrations that depicted American history from the time of World War I and II, and perhaps a little bit before that, up through the mid-60s and the Civil Rights Movement. His illustrations really depict American history in a wonderful way. This book is a fiction book, which means it's not a true story. But if you look carefully on the various pages, you may see Norman Rockwell, who drew himself into a number of the illustrations. And there's some speculation that this young lady, who is the librarian, was modeled after his mother. I hope you'll enjoy the story. Willie Was Different. Willie was a wood thrush. In his thrush family, he had a strict, proud father, a loving mother, and two rowdy older brothers named George and Albert. Willie was different. He felt and looked different. He was gawky and pigeon-toed. Maybe way down deep inside himself, he felt he was a genius. Willie's father was always preaching about the fine qualities of the wood thrush. A wood thrush, he would say, is not mighty like an eagle, or beautiful like a peacock, or wise like an owl. Certainly wood thrushes do not try to talk like humans as parrots do, nor do they sing like nightingales. No, we have a simple song that has never changed through the ages. Willie's father would say, "It is only 6 notes long, but it is perfect and it is glorious. Many famous human composers, such as Handel, Weber, and Gounod, have been inspired by our song." Willie was proud of being a wood thrush, but he also wanted to be himself. He was tired of his father's daily lectures and of trying to be like every other wood thrush. Finally, he just couldn't stand it anymore, so he flew away to a neighboring wood and made himself a new home, alone. Willie's mother was concerned for him. She came to see him and made sure he was getting enough berries, spiders, worms, seeds, and wild fruits to eat. But she didn't try to convince him to return home. She was wise enough to let him live as he needed to live. Willie was happy by himself in the woods. He flew about from birch to oak to pine tree and watched the sun rise and set and wondered what his genius would be. Then one twilight, Willie heard the sweet notes of a flute. He flew closer to listen better. Miss Polly, the town librarian, was playing her flute at an open window. She was playing a song by Handel, which included the thrush's call. Filled with joy to hear the thrush song from the flute, Willie began to sing along with it. First he sang just the simple song of the thrush. Then he added cadenzas and trills inspired by his own moods. Willie realized his destiny. He must become a great, great singer. Miss Polly had never been accompanied by a bird before, but she found Willie's music enchanting. She happily played duets with Willie until night fell and the moon rose. The next morning, Miss Polly walked through the woods until she heard Willie practicing his songs in a tree. She took notes, and that evening, at the regular meeting of the Bird Watchers Society, reported the amazing news of Willie, the creative thrush. The bird watchers were flabbergasted. A thrush who composed his own music? No one had ever heard of such a thing. Could it possibly be true? They called up the experts at the National Ornithological Society in Washington, D.C. The experts were flabbergasted too, even if they wouldn't admit it. And that very night, a motorcade of ornithological officials in top hats arrived at Miss Polly's house to see and hear the miraculous Willie. It was true. Willie, full of pride and genius, sang his songs, though he didn't know what to make of all the people peering at him, snapping photographs, taking notes. Miss Polly urged him to sing again and again. Inspired, he sang more beautifully than ever before. His audience fell silent. Willie was a genius. They knew it, and Willie knew it too. But later, as Willie rested in the dim top of a pine tree and Miss Polly served tea, the ornithologist told Miss Polly that Willie was too important a bird to stay out in the wilds. He must come to Washington and live in the aviary there. All the world deserved a chance to see and hear this remarkable creature. Miss Polly worried. The aviary would be so different from the woods behind her house. But she felt a duty to Willie's genius, so she took him on the train to Washington. Miss Polly was right. Away from his quiet woods and surrounded now by hundreds of strange birds, Willie couldn't sleep or eat or fly. Worse still, he couldn't sing. Not even the sound of Miss Polly's flute could cheer him or coax a note out of him. Willie was proud to be different, to be a genius, but he did not want to be a celebrity. After a few days, Miss Polly put her foot down. She took Willie back home and returned him to his woods and meadows. For quite a while, Willie kept to himself, but then, hearing the sweet sounds of Miss Polly's flute among the trees, he began to try his songs again. Very softly, just for themselves, Willie and Miss Polly, his true old friend, brought to life the songs they had created together. The rest of the world did not forget Willie. The Ornithological Society built a shrine called Willie's Room in their museum. Even now, if you have the right spirit, you can find it among all the hustle and bustle, the honking horns and blaring radios of Washington. And going in, you can hear for yourself the miracle of Willie's genius, his music. For that, as we know, was what made Willie different. I hope that you enjoyed the story about Willie and will find your own genius and your own way to be different in life. Love you.